On today's show, the LA Clippers have a huge road trip in front of them that is going to be crucial to where they finish at the end of the season. But what are the goals now for the Clippers after 54 games? Long term and short. Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, been a Clipper fan for 20 years, been covering the Clippers on my own NBA and LA sports-centric YouTube channel known as Dime Dropper for 5 years, and Locked On Clippers here for 3. You can follow along wherever you get your podcasts, and Locked On Clippers has a YouTube channel that you're probably watching right now or listening to the podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, listen to the podcast, do all that good stuff, and of course, the newsletter, LockedOnDaily.com is where you find it. I write it every day, LockedOnDaily.com for the free, all-new Clippers newsletter. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about the long-term and short-term goals for us. Now, the reason why I want to address this is because we're at the All-Star break. It's a good time to reflect and look at, okay, what are our goals for the season now? Because we're 54 games in. You know, everybody has their goals before the season. But, like, for example, a team like the Houston Rockets, their goals have probably changed a little bit, right, after seeing how good they are now. So their goals from now might be different than they were before the season. For the Clippers, I'm going to be talking about that. And obviously, when we talk about the Clippers and you have a Kawhi Leonard on your team, a James Harden on your team, that's a win-now team. So we're going to be talking about playoff things first. And then I'm going to talk about what really matters when it comes to this entire conversation, which is Kawhi Leonard. And then what I would think if we were in the play-in when the regular season ended. So let's talk about our updated playoff goals, right? Coming into the season, we weren't a championship team, and our own fans didn't think that. We thought, we're losing Paul George, you know, it's going to lead to less disappointment from a guy that's making that much money and has that much expectations. And it's also going to allow James Harden, Victor Zubats, Kawhi Leonard, and Norman Powell to get more shine. But most Clipper fans didn't think we were going to be better without Paul George, especially because when we don't have Kawhi Leonard, we're not going to have that other star to help us, you know, raise the floor. And if you want to look at the Clippers last season and this season, because I think the vibes feel better this season, but we often forget that despite the controversy with Russell Westbrook and Paul George's contract situation, Clipper Nation, last season, through 54 games, we were 36-18. So we'd won twice as many games as we'd lost. That is a 5-game difference to right now. So we're not better this season. But a large reason for that is Kawhi Leonard was way healthier last season. So if Kawhi Leonard were as healthy as he was last season with this team, we honestly might be better. We honestly might. I didn't think either were a championship team, if I'm being honest with you. But my point being that before this season, people did not think the Clippers were a championship team. We thought, let's stay competitive, see if we can get Kawhi healthy for a playoff series, and maybe our defensive personnel and these role players to replace Paul George will make us competitive. And if we do have a healthy Kawhi, we can maybe do better than we did, you know, in the last couple years in the playoffs, because even though we had higher expectations going into the last 2 seasons, we ended up playing the playoffs without Kawhi Leonard, really. So if we do have Kawhi Leonard healthy in the playoffs, even if we don't have a 3-star team or, you know, the big 4 with Westbrook coming off the bench that we had, we might be better. Because our results might be better just for the virtue of having Kawhi. But what are our playoff expectations now? That's the question. Now, after 54 games, seeing the way that this has gone, the West is gone, When you look at the West landscape, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the team that we gave the success essentially, is head and shoulders above the pack. They basically have the number one seed wrapped up. 44-10 record, 25-3 in Oklahoma City, and they have the highest margin of differential, point difference of any team in the NBA on average, with a plus 12.9 win margin and one of the best relative defensive ratings in NBA history so far this season. They are a force to be reckoned with, and they're led by a guy that was drafted by us. I try not to talk about that too much on this show, but it really is going to hurt the most when we see it this playoffs, because they're at least going back to the second round. And probably, I mean, if they don't get to the conference finals this year, it's a huge disappointment. They have to get at least to the conference finals. And to be honest with you, given that the Dallas Mavericks, the team that beat them, traded Luka Doncic, and Minnesota's not been as good this season, and the Lakers still don't have as complete of a roster, this is the West, OKC's West to lose. Now, there is a team that has a ceiling we haven't seen quite yet. And it's not the Lakers. It's us. Because if you add a healthy Kawhi to this equation, the sky's the limit. Now, what should be the goals? I mean, here's the thing. Fan goals and team goals are different, right? Not all the time. Most of the time, I'll say this. If you're a championship contending team and you're a tanking team, then yeah, your goals. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to say if you're a championship team. Because if you're a championship team, championship contender, and your fans think it, then you're damn sure the players are going to think it. If you are a tanking team, the fans want you to tank, but the players that are getting paid are not going to tank. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to lose. A lot of these guys on tanking teams are fighting for contracts, fighting for their careers. So their goals don't align necessarily. The fans and the expectations aren't the same between fans and players in a tanking setting. That middle ground is interesting because it comes down to, do the fans think that the team is a championship contender? The players, just by virtue of being a playoff team, have to think that they're a championship contender, in my opinion. See, the Spurs are an interesting team because I don't know. They're in the middle of it. Like, they're in a rebuild, but they could make the play-in this year. But, like, let's say a team like Phoenix, right? Kevin Durant deep down knows that that's not a championship team. But he can't think that, because if they get to the playoffs and they have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, you should be thinking, like, we got a chance any night that we play to win it all. But the fans, they're more realistic. They probably think the Suns, there's no way, but the evidence that they've seen that they're a championship team. I think that's a similar situation to us in a way, except we're better than Phoenix. I think Clipper fans are at times delusionally optimistic, but I think 99% of Clipper fans, you ask, Clipper fans, that is not the same as a fanboy of Kawhi or James Harden. That is not the same. A long-term fan of the Clippers, I'd say minimum 6-7 years before Kawhi Leonard was even there. Because even though they're the realistic 1% of stands and whatnot, I just don't care. I'm talking about our fans. 99, because here's another thing, right? When you talk about predictions, you don't know the future. So nobody's right or wrong off the bat, right? You don't know it when you make it. That's why it's a prediction. The thing about it is, when you're a fan of a team, it's always an emotional call to some degree, because it's also about the faith that you have. And a lot of Clipper fans have a lot of faith. But then there's the other section of Clipper fans like me that are like, something's going to go wrong. Like, there's no way we're winning it this year. Like, it's in my opinion, when the Clippers do win the championship one day, and I do think if I'm alive till I'm 60, maybe 50, I'll see one, at least one. Sorry for anybody that's way older than me. It's just the limit I'm putting on things. I just don't know what the Clippers, man. But hey, we'll be here the rest of the way cheering for them no matter what. But I think it'll be before that, hopefully. But hey, if Donald Sterling was still the owner and I was doing this show, I would say that we're never going to win a championship probably, and I'm just like begging for something that's unrealistic. With Ballmer, I actually think we have a chance. Now, my point being that there's another section of Clipper fans like me that think that when we do win a ring, the stars are going to align in a way that we can feel it's a championship team. We can sense it all season, because that's just how basketball works. That's how the NBA historically works, is that the team that wins the championship has the season to back it up, the regular season. That's why I spammed talking about top 3 seeds last year. I said it ad nauseum. So my point is this. The Clipper players need to think that we get a healthy Kawhi, we can win it all. As a fan, I don't think it's realistic to expect Kawhi to last and play at an extremely high level for 4 consecutive series, and that we're the team that comes out with the Larry O'Brien this year. It just doesn't seem realistic. James Harden, second option at age 35. I just don't. Although, actually, no, Norman Powell technically is. But we still, that version of our team, let's say Kawhi Leonard does come back to his old self, that version of our team will probably only exist for like 15 to 20 games in the regular season versus the 80 or so or 70 plus that the Thunder or the Celtics or these teams have played with each other. The Thunder, for example, like, I know James Harden, Norm, and Kawhi played with each other last year, but it's not quite the same as this year because Norm is in all-star conversations now. He's our leading scorer. So you have to adjust without, because Norm's not going back off the bench, so you're going to have to adjust a little bit. So my point is this. As fans, what should we expect? I think let's get into the playoffs. That's the goal. Let's get into the playoffs. Top 6 spots. Top 6 spots. That would be a successful season given everything we've gone through, in my opinion, and it would give us as fans a playoff series at the Intuit Dome in our first year. That would be a win for us, just given the situation that we're in, because we're not in a good one. If we're talking about championships, I don't think we're in a very good one. However, as a team, and you know what? If you're a fan that thinks this too, I'm not a fan police. I don't care. You can definitely think this. I just think you'll likely end up a little disappointed, but do you? Because if it's okay with you and it doesn't disappoint you that much, then believe it. If we can somehow get Kawhi Leonard playing like he was last year, or at his best last year, I think the Thunder should be worried about us more than anybody. I know we're slower than them and stuff, and they have guys that can guard us, but there is no guarding for prime Kawhi or like Kawhi at his best. There's not. You can try your best. And I think James Harden can still create advantages. Norman Powell will still be fun. I just think it's a team that we haven't seen yet. And if there's anyone that can match SGA mid-range wise in the playoffs, it's going to be Kawhi. But coming up, I'm going to talk more about Kawhi. What do we want to see from him as fans? And what does the team want to see from him to end this season? Going to be talking about that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about PrizePicks. Football season may be over, but the basketball action is just heating up. And there's no better way to get in on the excitement than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. It's simple. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. With PrizePicks, you control the action all season long. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, so talking about what the Clippers' goals are, I think their goals should be to make the playoffs outright as a top 6 seed for the rest of the season. Considering that at the All-Star break, as I'm speaking, we are 31-23 and in the 6th spot. The Minnesota Timberwolves are behind us at 31-25. And here's the thing about the Timberwolves. Going into the season, they had far higher expectations than us. The fact that they're a 7th seed right now is very disappointing considering they made the conference finals last year and have a superstar that's younger than the guy you're listening to, right? But they made one of the most shocking trades in the offseason by trading Karl Anthony Towns because they didn't want to pay him and have Julius Randle's more flexible contract being that it's expiring. But they made a bad move. And then Mike Conley's decline, finally. Yes. Okay, that was a little mean. Not really. Are you kidding me? Mike Conley's tortured me for years. How much longer is he going to last? Are you crazy? It's time for him to go. I'm kidding, though. He seems like a really cool guy. Everybody says great things about Conley. But as a Clipper fan, get him out of here tomorrow. Are you kidding me? Yesterday, honestly. The fact that he's declining is really great. Just, as a Clipper fan. But you know what? When we play him, probably, he's going to just go off again. Because that's just what he does. He's there to torture us until it's all said and done. I've just come to accept that with him. But it's nice to see him decline a little bit. So you put that all together, and they lost Kyle Anderson, who I think is a good guy for their size and versatility defensively. And DiVincenzo took a while to get going. They're 31-25, but they're on our tail. You know what I'm saying? They're on our tail, and they could easily pass us. Now with Dallas, Sacramento, I don't think they're going to pass us. Golden State, you never know if they find some kind of rhythm with Butler and they get going. But I don't know. They're 4 games back in the loss column, 3.5 overall. I think the chances of us finishing in that play-in are very strong. I think the chances of us finishing in the playoffs outright are pretty strong. We just got to, make sure Minnesota doesn't catch up. I think they're the dangerous team. Minnesota, and then if Houston keeps dipping, we can take advantage of that. Maybe even if one of LeBron or Luka goes down, it won't be that easy to get wins, in my opinion. But we'll just have to see. The Lakers, somehow when AD was out before the trade happened, they were starting to have some success too with the small ball looks that JJ wants to go with. But that's my opinion is we got to get into the playoffs, top 6. That would be a great goal. If we don't do that, I don't think it's disappointing, but I'll talk about that coming up. I think we should have some Kawhi Leonard goals, centric goals, for the remainder of the season. When you look at Kawhi, well, we have 28 games left, right? He's played 14 games. 15 games. So if he were to play the remaining 28, he's up to 43 games. He's played the majority of the season. That's not going to happen. Now, let's see how many back-to-backs we have left this season, because it's safe to say he's not going to play all of them. Okay, I see one coming up on this current road trip. It's going to be Sunday and Monday. We got at Indiana and then at Detroit. Honestly, the Pistons have been pretty good this year. They're really finally starting to take a leap. Cade Cunningham was an all-star, and I think he's going to be an all-star for years to come. So I think playing him against Indiana and just going for it is the best game. But you never know. Playing him again, I'd rather play him in the first of the back-to-back, and then you rest him. We might lose that second one, but rest up for Chicago. But we'll talk more about the road trip and previewing that in tomorrow's episode. But that's one back-to-back. And then we have at New Orleans on March 11th, and then the next night we have at Miami, March 12th. Never mind. I'm not going to say it. So that's a second back-to-back. And then we have another one, March 30th and March 31st at Cleveland and then at Orlando. Man, these are not easy. These are road back-to-backs. And then Dallas back-to-back at Intuit, 4th and 5th of April. And then San Antonio and Houston back-to-back at Intuit in 8th and 9th of April. So 5 back-to-backs left. So if you rule him out for 5 games, now he's at 23 left. He ends the season at 38 games. The thing is, we're relying on a guy who's played 38 games to lead us to a championship. It's not realistic, guys. It's not realistic. This has never happened before, and I just don't believe that the basketball gods are going to shine on the Clippers and say, hey, you know what? You're the one franchise that the number one option is going to be a 38-game player in the regular season, and you're going to win it all because he's just going to catch fire. I just don't think it works that way, to be quite honest with you. But I think we can get maybe him peaking at the right time, get a round out of him at least just to see, can we see him healthy for one playoff series again? You know when the last time that was? 2021 first round against the Dallas Mavericks, and he was amazing then. Now, I don't think he's quite as good as then because he's been through a torn meniscus and a torn ACL, but he's still pretty damn good last year, and he had 25 points in his last NBA game, which was great to see against Memphis. So this is the thing with Kawhi. Let's see him play. Let's have a game goal for him, honestly. Out of these 28 games, let's see him play 20 of them. If he plays 20 more games, that would get him up to 35 games. If he plays 20 more games, and right now he's currently averaging 16 a night, right? 16.3 points. If he can get his average to 20 plus points a game, that would mean he's probably averaging around 23, 24 a night for the remainder of the season. That would be the goal. Let's see if we can get Kawhi to 20 points a game, given everything he's been through, going into the playoffs and playing 20 of these remaining 28 games. I think that is the move. But ultimately, it's an eye test thing for me. I don't think it's like he should be able to average 25 to 30 every single game, consistently 25 to 30. Let's see 4 to 5 games of 25 to 30 points. Then I'll say that we have a chance to win multiple series potentially. It's an eye test thing, honestly, but I just gave a stat too. So I guess that's the goal. Primary goals with Kawhi, 20 out of the remaining 28 games. Let's see him play them. Second, can he get his average up to 20 points by the end of the season, which would mean he's had some big scoring games. Can we see, let's go with 4 games in a row of 25 to 30 points. Then now I think maybe we could win a series or 2. It all comes down to Kawhi. These last 28 games, You can say it's about the Clippers. It's not really about the Clippers. It is, but it's about Kawhi, who's been the face of the franchise now for 6 years. We got to see something. You know the biggest goal of all, and I've mentioned it already, Kawhi healthy playoff series one time. If it happens in the Intuit Dome right when Paul George leaves, honestly, great story. Maybe a little too late, but still I would love to see it. And it would just be like, playoff game at Intuit Dome already sounds crazy, but like with Kawhi like playing at his best. But see, like I need to see Kawhi play at his best consistently. Like that last game looked good. We need more of that. He's had a nice extended rest. Coming up though, what is the consequence, and would it be disappointing if we landed in the play-in spot? And how likely is that? Going to be talking about that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about TurboTax. You see, this Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, talking about the Clippers' goals for the remainder of the season, I put number 1 as let's get in the top 6 spots. Number 2, get Kawhi Leonard to the playoffs healthy. And if we can do that and playing at his best, you just never know what we could do. And for Kawhi, 20 of the remaining 28 games, get your point per game average up to 20 a game, and 4 straight games of 25 to 30. That would show me that he could get us a series winner too. Now, what's the consequence if we fall into the play-in? Because that's where a lot of Clipper fans that were a little more optimistic on our team than national media before the season were saying that we're going to finish. We're going to finish in the play-in. I think on this show, I said we're going to finish 9th. I think that's what I said, 9th. But you never know. We could finish there. I think we're not going to finish there. I think we'll be 7th or 8th at the worst, which is a huge win. If you told me before the season, and that was, we didn't know how many games Kawhi was going to play, and that was always part of what made the Clippers such a hard team to predict in terms of record. But I think most of us had us in the plan because of that. If you would have told me, yeah, we get 70 games of Kawhi and Harden and Zoo, I'm like, okay, yeah, we're going to definitely be a top 5 seed. Are you kidding? But we knew that wasn't going to be the case. So I don't think we expected this, though. I don't think we expected less than half the season from Kawhi, which if we were to say that, most Clipper fans would have said, yeah, we're probably not making the plan. Maybe 10 or 9. For me to say now on this show at the All-Star break, yeah, I think at worst we'll finish 8th. That's huge. Now, the thing is, that doesn't guarantee a playoff spot anymore like it did from, I don't know when 8 teams started. I haven't gotten to that point in NBA history in my timeline, but I know it was 2020 when they started the play-in due to the bubble. So up until 2019, top 8 was good enough, as we know, as the last 8th seed in NBA history that made it to the playoffs outright. That was such a great team. 2019 Clips. Shout out to them. I don't think it would be a disappointment if we ended the plan. I think some Clipper fans might be disappointed because of how well we've done, and if we finish in the plan, that means that we're probably going to be like around 500 for the rest of the season, I would think, something like that. And Minnesota just gets insanely hot, and then Houston and the Lakers maintain their pace. But we finished 7th. We got to get to the playoffs. I don't care if it's 8. I mean, oh my God, playing SGA in the playoffs would be like the Thunder. Losing to them would be a nightmare. Oh my God. We'd have to log off Twitter and answer Lawrence Frank's sins and Kawhi Leonard's as well. But nah, like if we make it to the playoff, I just want to have a playoff game and be in the swell in the wall for a playoff game this year. Like we're going to turn that ished up like you've never seen a playoff game get turned up before. It's going to be sold out to the brim with Clipper fans. The wall is going to be nuts. You're not even going to see what you're thinking. I don't even think you're going to remember where we are anymore. It's going to be amazing. I just need that. Like, I need it like oxygen. Playing against the 2-seed Memphis Grizzlies and revisiting the old days of Memphis, the Clippers, that's my dream, honestly. And we've had success against them this season. And they might, we end them. Ja gets like traded in the summer. Like it all seems like the script is coming there. So I think we should shoot for that. Honestly, if we don't get one of the outright playoff spots, 7th seed, Memphis in the first round. Because, we might play Denver for the 6th seed, and that's going to be a nightmare. I don't see us beating them. And Russ, he would yell in our faces. It would be so annoying. But, I have so much respect for Jokic. That's like, when you get beat by the best player in the world. It's kind of how I felt when I used to watch Chelsea play Barcelona. I was like, okay, like, in the Champions League, like Messi, besides 2012, Messi just used to do things, and I was like, yeah, like, the fact that Eden Hazard just looks like a normal player out here just shows that Messi's a level above. You know what I'm saying? Jokic right now is the best player in the world. Like, I think we got a chance against Denver, but not a strong one. In a series, I wouldn't put us over Denver. But you know what? Harden is really good against Denver. But it's the playoffs. Like, I'm not betting against Jokic unless there's a really well-oiled machine. I think we're a great defensive team. Well, Zoo does have some success guarding Jokic, though. Honestly, I don't think we're the worst matchup for them now that I'm thinking about it. It's like I'm changing my take mid-episode. But, am I going to pick us, though, if I'm being objective over the Nuggets in a series without home court? Hell no. So, look, the West is a monster. It's been a monster my entire life. Every single year. We're getting to that point where, like, in a week or so, everyone's going to be like, man, the West playoffs are going to be insane this year. It's like you say this every year. And if they're not injured, like a bunch of injuries, we usually have some good series. But we also find out in the playoffs who the frauds are and who the pretend. Like, last year, the Suns, yeah, they had KD. They're frauds. They got swept by the Wolves. Anthony Edwards was, like, destroying them. And then the Clippers got hurt, so that series was a wash. Then 1 versus 8 is 1 versus 8. That was a sweep. So, like, the first round of the West, like, didn't end up actually being that great. Who was the 2-7? I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah, Nuggets versus Lakers. Those were fun games. It was 5 games. Those were fun. We had 2-game winners. But anyway, point being, if we get in the play-in, it's not a bad season, in my opinion. It's actually a very good season, and James Harden, Norman Powell, and Ivica Zubac deserve the most credit for it, and our coaching staff, and everybody involved deserves a lot of credit for it. It's not a bad season. It might be a little disappointing to some fans, but I think you might have your expectations too high. It would probably mean, though, that we didn't get Kawhi playing to the level that we wanted. Because I think if Kawhi, like, the way we want it to go, Clipper fans, is Kawhi returns to his old self, does what I said. We'll get back to 20 points because he'll have, like, some big scoring games, and then we're talking, like, we're going into the playoffs with momentum. I don't think we're going to dip in the standings unless Minnesota goes on a crazy run. Then we finish 7th and go into the playoffs with momentum, playing against Memphis, and I want to see you come to the Intuit Dome, Memphis. Oh my God. That's honestly the dream right there. Then we play the Nuggets in like the second round. That would be so great. Oh my God. Anyway. All right, that's going to be it for me today, guys. We're going to talk about the road trip and the games and previewing it on Thursday. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper, LA sports content. And I just shared an episode yesterday that was my most personal episode yet about everything that happened, what my life was like before and after the fires, and the struggle, that's going to happen the next couple of years. Whew, it was a lot. I've never opened up like that in episodes. Check it out. It's on YouTube and on podcast for Dime Dropper. And then on Locked On Clippers, you can follow, you can subscribe. You should subscribe. On YouTube, I said it, 7,000 subscribers before the end of the season, ladies and gentlemen. 7,000. We need it. Before the end of the regular season, I'd be even more appreciative. But we need to catch up. I just saw Locked On Pistons got 10,000 subs today. We gotta level up. And I know it's my fault. I was gone for a month. It is what it is. But come on. We're a bigger fan base than people think. Let's show some love. Make sure you subscribe. You hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post a video. The age-old. Oh, by the way, and don't forget about the newsletter, LockedOnDaily.com. It really helps your boy, and I could use any views we can get on that newsletter. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.